Okay, we're on to question 7. I answered question 6, didn't I? Yeah. So question 7 is about the EHO. Another one that people aren't often keen on. The EHO is an environmental health officer. So somebody who works for the local council, whichever town or city, and they go round checking the food premises and where they store and serve food. So they're usually employed by the council and they have a job to go and maintain the safety of the way that the food is prepared. They do that to prevent food poisoning outbreaks and to look after the health of the public. They sometimes go out in response to a report of an outbreak of food poisoning. They sometimes do it unannounced. So this question is talking about London. Doesn't matter that we've never been to London. We don't live in London. You work for Towers London Borough Council. So that explains why there's that. It's just their logo for where they are. So it's central London by the Tower. Just to explain that. You've been asked to place an advert for the Environmental Health Officer. So remember that this is a vocational qualification. That's why it's talking about you being in charge of doing this, because it's imagining this is part of your role. Complete the missing information for the advert, talking about the role and the responsibilities. So it talks about the pay. There's some interesting careers information, the type of pay you could expect as an EHO. You're full-time, 9 till 5, and you have to have a DBS. That's your criminal convictions check. So the reason that's important is because it means you're going out and you're working with people, perhaps with vulnerable people. So you need to have a check that says that you've got no criminal convictions prior to doing the job. So the bits you've got to fill in is the role and responsibilities. 2 marks here, 6 there. The role, which some of you just wrote EHO. No, it wants a description of the role. So I've put here, to check and monitor the safety of food preparation in catering. So you're just describing what an EHO does in a very simple term. Down here is where you go into more detail. So I've said, arrive unannounced to check safety and hygiene. We'll look at log of training and cleanliness. We'll investigate how food is stored and how it is prepared. This might involve taking photos and looking at temperatures of fridges and cooked food. If issues are found, they might give advice or shut the business down until they believe it to be safe when improvements are made. So if I wanted to give that some marks, I'll show you where I find them, because it's a 6-mark question. So the fact that I've said they come unannounced is a mark. The fact that they will look at safety and hygiene, a mark. Looking at logs, anything to do with logs of training, logs of cooked food. I've talked to you before about sometimes when you work in a catering kitchen you have a special book, and in it every time you cook certain foods you would take the temperature and write it down so there's a record. Looking at how food is stored, taking photos, looking at temperatures of food. If issues are found, you can see that I've already got up to more than 6 marks. So in a question like this, the examiner, once they're happy that you've said more than 6 marks worth of things, they will be able to give you that mark. Straightforward one here, but some of you got a little bit obsessed with talking about wiping work surfaces. 3 food hygiene rules: wash hands, tie hair back, keep raw and cooked food separate. So the question is, within food legislation there are a number of important guidelines. State 3 food hygiene rules that must be followed. We could have talked about use colour-coded chopping boards. We could have talked about cooking food to the correct temperatures. We could have talked about using fridges correctly. Obvious ones: wash your hands, tie your hair back, keep raw and cooked food separate. They often include a question like this for a couple of easy marks. I'm going to do the last question separately so I can talk to you about it.